Hello, and welcome to American Heron Wargaming. This is a battle report for Fallout Wasteland Warfare. This is a special battle report because it covers my fourth game in the Battle for Nuka-World Campaign that I'm involved with down at my local game shop. We'd taken a bit of a break on the campaign for a while, but interest has drummed up again, so we're back out there on the battlefield. At the end of round 2, game 1, my gang, the operators, had lost both of our battles. We'd ceded the rally rollers to the pack and failed to reclaim the Starlight Interstellar Theater. So we were looking to claw back some territory. So while my teammate was trying again to knock the Disciples out of the Starlight Interstellar Theater, I was responsible for our expansionist aims. For today's battle, my opponent and I were both trying for control over the Blast-Off node in Kitty Kingdom. My operators were trying for an incursion into Kitty Kingdom, but since the pack already owned a node in that park, they got to equip an extra Magician's costume and Nuka-Cola Victory on their force for free, so I'd be operating at a slight deficit. The scenario for the battle is called Tread Carefully. Both forces start out on the right side and have to make their way over to the left side of the board, where there's a fort wall that we need to get through. Each of the 4 investigation markers are numbered, which corresponds to a test required to get through the wall. Passing a test and opening a hole nets a team 2 victory points. Then, once a hole is opened, any model in base contact with that marker can escape, and each escapee earns another victory point for their team. Of course, that's not all that's going on. On the north and south sides of the board, it's kind of hard to see in this photo, but these large areas are minefields. They're counted as difficult terrain, so models moving through them are going to be moving slower. They will also explode if a model enters or exits the field, or if they take 2 move actions inside it. So that's the tough going option. The middle of the board has an active turret that's ready to start spitting light at anyone who dares to move near it. So that's it. Either brave the mines or the turret, or both, to get to the wall. Then find a test you can pass, open up a hole, and try to get through. All in 6 turns. Simple enough. Tread Carefully is from the Caught in the Crossfire scenario book, which is one of my favorites for all the crazy stuff that's in there. We didn't play on that snowy mat, by the way. That's another table, which was also running the same scenario. Since this is part of the Battle for Nuka-World campaign, we decided to eschew the curated Wasteland decks that were recommended for the scenario. Instead, we opted to use the regional table sheet for Kitty Kingdom for events, items, danger, etc. After agreeing to that, though, we realized that the regional table rules for Kitty Kingdom means that we'd be suffering a lot of extra rad damage, which affected our list building significantly. My Institute force was built like so. A2018 led the team, since it has built-in armor and native radiation immunity. They were equipped with a Tesla cannon and a ripper. The Z247 Courser was lightly equipped with combat armor, a 12.7mm pistol, and a ripper. I figured that they were decent enough with most skills needed to open holes in the wall, and that their native Stealth Boy effect would make them ideal for activating first and forcing the turret to react to them but not actually be able to hit them. Then I had an engineer as an action monkey, using their default equipment loadout with a clean room suit and the Institute laser pistol. Filling out the list was a core of 4 Gen 1 synths with Institute laser pistols and batons. Individually, they're not very useful, but I figured the swarm of them could either sprint for the exit and score points just for getting out of the wall, or they could be used to gum up the works for my opponent. Speaking of my opponent, they were representing the pack gang, but using the Survivors faction. So, in keeping with the avoid radiation damage theme, they had brought Fox, Sharon, and Codsworth, who were all immune to radiation. Then they had Boone, but gave him the Ghoulish perk, so he could actually heal when receiving rad damage. Finally, there was one settler without any rad protection, but my opponent figured that with 4 other models that could tank that if it came in, they could probably get away without supporting the last one. The first turn started out pretty cagey. I moved up Z247 to force the turret to waste reactions on a target it could barely see. My opponent took a bit more of an aggressive approach. Boone spotted and tagged Z2 for a pair of damage, and Codsworth took advantage of not being affected by difficult terrain to zip across the minefield, taking some damage, but getting a lot closer to the wall than any of the models that were having to go through the middle. I tried to have A2018 take a shot at the turret, but had gone wide. A lot of lead started flying in turn 2, but not much connected. With both sides pushing up, only 2 damage got through on Sharon, and 2 of my Gen 1 synths charged into the settler. Codsworth made it to the wall, but didn't have enough actions left to try to use the action to open a hole. Turn 3 was a bit more lethal. Fox nearly killed one of the Gen 1 synths, but between the 2 of them and A2018, he took a serious peppering. The settler suffered a rad damage due to the round's event, and then caught 2 more when pulling away from combat with the other Gen 1s. That freed them up to gang up on Boone instead. On the far end of the field, the Institute engineer was just shy of reaching one of the objective markers, and Z2 was close behind. Codsworth unveiled the one that he had started on, and it was the lockpick check, the only one of the 4 that he actually couldn't do. So he went off down the line to find the next one. In turn 4, Fox battered down one of the Gen 1s, only to have its compatriot knock him down with a lucky baton swat. And then it zapped down the settler, earning a special MVP sticker. With only 2 turns left to score points, Sharon and A2018 decided to skip combat and run straight for the exits. Codsworth tried to open up a hole with a melee check, but failed. The Institute engineer also failed their shooting check, but Z2 was right behind and ready to take care of that next turn. One of the Gen 1's mobbing Boone fell, but between the two of them they put 4 damage on him in return. Though, at the start of the next turn, my opponent used the region rule to have Boone suffer 2 rad damage. Thanks to his ghoulish perk, that actually ended up working as healing, halving the damage that he'd taken last turn. In turn 5, the engineer rushed over and succeeded on a use computers check, sneaking 2 victory points away from Codsworth, who was then just shy of ending up on the marker after passing his melee check and then moving further south. A2018 moved to try to escape out of the hole next turn, and Charon tried the same on the northern side. Way in the back, the Gen 1 Synths and Boone continued to wail on each other, with neither side gaining much of an advantage. In the final turn, Codsworth jumped in front of the hole, preventing the engineer and A2018 from escaping through the wall and scoring victory points. While an enemy model is in base contact with the token, no one can use it, and despite their best efforts, the Synths were not able to get him out of the way in time. However, Z247 shot its way through the hole in the south and escaped, adding 3 points to my total. Sharon took 2 tries with the lock, but failed to get it open, so my opponent ended with only 2 victory points in the end to my 5, which meant a victory to the operators. So we snagged Blast Off in the Kitty Kingdom. Unfortunately, my teammate was also unable to wrestle control from Starlight Interstellar Theater from the Disciples. They also ended up claiming Vault-Tec among the stars over the pack, so the Galactic Zone, our home turf, is under tight contention between them and us, so we're going to need to do something about that. But that's it for now. Stay safe out there in the wasteland.